I refuse to lend my brother money again because I'm not his personal ATM. So, hi, internet strangers. I've been lurking here forever, but never thought I'd actually make a post. But I'm honestly sitting here with this horrible pit in my stomach, replaying a fight I had earlier today, and I can't tell if I'm being selfish, cruel, or if I finally did the right thing. I feel guilty and relieved at the same time, which is a weird combination, and it's making me second-guess everything. For context, I'm a 28F, my brother's 30M. We grew up pretty close. We're only 2 years apart, and for a long time, I thought we had one of those ride-or-die sibling relationships. Our parents are still around, mid-60s, both retired, but they've always been a bit hands-off. Like, they love us, but they've never been the kind of parents who swoop in to solve problems. It was always kind of me and him against the world. At least that's how it used to feel. Now it feels like me against him and his wallet. I work a stable job. It's nothing glamorous. I'm not raking in six figures or anything, but I'm financially steady. I've built up a little emergency fund. I'm careful with money. My brother, on the other hand, has always been chaotic. He jumps from job to job, spends recklessly, and somehow always manages to be on the edge financially. And for years, I've been the one plugging the holes in his boat whenever he sinks. I guess the best way to put it is, I became his go-to emergency fund, his personal ATM. And the worst part, I let it happen. That's what brings me here. Today, it all boiled over. He asked again, another loan, another promise to pay me back soon, and I finally said no. And now he's furious. He called me selfish, ungrateful, a bad sister. He says family should help family no matter what. And I feel awful because part of me agrees. But the other part of me, the part that's tired and broke and emotionally drained, just couldn't do it again. So yeah, that's the situation. I don't know if I've completely overreacted or as maybe it was overdue. But let me back up because I think the backstory is important. The thing is, this fight today didn't just come out of nowhere. It wasn't one simple ask that I shut down. It's been building for years, like water dripping into a bucket until it finally spills over. The first time my brother asked me for money, I didn't even hesitate. I was maybe 23, fresh out of college, working my first real job. He was 25 and had just gotten laid off from some sales gig. He called me sounding absolutely desperate, said he couldn't make rent, that his car payment was due, that he'd be out on the street if I didn't help. I remember sitting there on my crappy IKEA couch, my heart pounding, because the idea of my big brother, the person who used to walk me home from school and protect me from bullies, it just felt unbearable. So I transferred him $500. It was basically half of what I had in savings at the time, but he promised me up and down he'd pay it back within a month. Spoiler alert, he didn't. But I let it go. I told myself, he's going through a rough patch. That's what siblings are for. Then came the second time, and the third, and the fifth. After a while, it wasn't even, I'll pay you back. It became, can you spot me? You know I'll figure it out eventually. And I'd cave every single time. At first, it was emergencies, car trouble, late rent, phone bill shut off, but eventually it was smaller things too. Nights out where he forgot his wallet, vacations he couldn't afford but didn't want to miss out on. Even Christmas gifts where he'd say, hey, could you front me some cash so I can buy mom and dad something nice? And I'd do it. Because what was I going to say? Sorry, no gift for mom this year because my brother can't budget. The thing is, every time I gave in, I felt two things. Relief, because I was helping him because he was temporarily saved. And resentment, because I knew deep down he was leaning on me instead of standing on his own. It wasn't just the money, it was the way he asked, always with this mix of desperation and expectation. Like he knew I'd fold. Like it wasn't even a question anymore. It was just assumed that I would swoop in. And yeah, I'll admit it, part of me liked feeling like the responsible one, the savior, the person who had it together. Maybe that's messed up, but it gave me this weird sense of importance. But after years of this pattern, it's not empowering anymore. It's exhausting. I feel like I'm stuck in this loop where he spends without thinking, and I'm the one left cutting corners so his life doesn't implode. What makes it worse is that my parents know. They know he's bad with money, but they don't step in. They'll sigh and say things like, "Oh, you know, your brother, he just struggles with finances." But they don't actually do anything. If anything, I think they silently expect me to handle it since I'm the responsible one. So yeah, that's the backstory. Years of being the financial safety net, the fixer, the person who cleans up the mess, and every time I tell myself, this is the last time, but then the guilt hits and I cave again. Until today. Because today, something in me snapped. So this all came to a head literally today. My brother called me in the afternoon, out of the blue. I saw his name pop up on my phone and immediately got that sinking feeling in my gut. You know when you just know a conversation isn't gonna be good? That's what it felt like. Because honestly, 9 times out of 10, when he calls, it's not to catch up or to ask how I'm doing. It's because he needs something. And sure enough, after the small talk, which lasted all of maybe 30 seconds, he launched into it. He was in a bind, his words. Apparently, he was behind on rent again, and his landlord was being a jerk and threatening late fees. He needed $800 to cover it, just for this month, just until he got back on track. I swear, I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable, like those script we've both memorized. Him asking, me hesitating, him promising, me sighing, and saying yes. But this time, I couldn't. Something in me just broke. Maybe it was because I had just paid my own bills and watched my savings take another hit from car repairs. Maybe it was because I had already lent him money last month that still hadn't been mentioned since. Maybe it was because I was tired of feeling like the only adult in this dynamic. So I told him, I can't help you this time. Silence. Dead silence on the other end of the line. For a second, I thought the call dropped. Then he let out this scoff, like I had just told the world's dumbest joke. What do you mean you can't? You always help me. That's the thing. Not won't, but can't. Like it wasn't even an option for me to say no. I repeated myself, firmer this time. I'm sorry, but I really can't keep giving you money. I'm not your bank. That's when he snapped. He went off about how family is supposed to be there for each other, how I'm lucky to have a stable job, how it's easy for me to say no because I've never had to struggle like him. Which is absolute BS, by the way. I worked 2 jobs through college, I budgeted every penny, I skipped vacations and nights out so I could build up savings. But in his mind, my stability just happened to me. Then he hit me with, wow, you're really selfish. After everything I've done for you, you can't even help me out? And that part stung. Because yeah, he has been there for me in the past. He was the big brother who drove me to school dances, who picked me up when I got stranded, who defended me when I got dumped. But those were years ago, before money became the center of every interaction. I told him as calmly as I could, I love you, but I can't keep being your safety net. You need to figure this out. He cursed at me, called me a bad sister, said I'd regret this when I'm the one who needs help someday. And then he hung up. And that was it. I just sat there staring at my phone, my heart pounding. Part of me felt this huge wave of relief, like I had finally drawn a line in the sand. But another part of me felt like the worst person alive, like I had abandoned him, like maybe he was right, maybe I am selfish. The truth is, I don't even know what's going to happen now. I don't know if he'll talk to me tomorrow or next week, or if we'll just stop talking altogether. And as much as I want to stand my ground, I hate the idea of losing my brother over money. When the call ended, I just sat there in stunned silence. You know that feeling when your heart is still racing, but everything around you feels oddly quiet? That's what it was like. I could hear the hum of my fridge, my own breathing, even the little clock on my desk ticking. But my brain was just replaying his words over and over like a broken record. Selfish. Bad sister.
"You'll regret this someday." I don't even know how long I sat there staring at my phone screen, waiting for it to light up again with his name. A text, a call, anything. But nothing came. At first, there was this strange rush of relief. Like, finally, I had said no. Finally, I had chosen myself and my own financial security over being the endless backup plan. I almost felt powerful, strong, like I had broken a cycle. But that feeling lasted maybe 5 minutes before the guilt set in. What if he really can't pay rent? What if his landlord does kick him out? What if he ends up on someone's couch or, God forbid, homeless? And I could have stopped it with one transfer. Doesn't that make me heartless? And then the self-doubt spiral started. I thought about every single time he's helped me in the past. The rides home, the times he showed up for me after a bad breakup. Even just the little things like letting me tag along with his friends when I was younger so I wouldn't feel like a loser. Those memories hit me like a punch to the gut. What if refusing him now erased all of that? What if he never sees me as the little sister he loves again, and only as the sister who turned her back when he needed her? I even caught myself opening my banking app, staring at my balance, calculating if maybe I could scrape together $800 after all. Like, maybe I could just text him back and say, okay, fine, but this is the last time. But then another voice in my head, quieter but firm, said, "That's what you told yourself last time, and the time before that, and the time before that."
I think what hurts the most is how quickly the love in his voice turned into anger, how I went from sister to selfish in under a minute. It made me feel like maybe he doesn't actually see me as family anymore. Maybe I'm just a resource to him. And that thought absolutely broke me. Later, I tried to talk to my parents about it, which was a mistake. My mom's response was basically, "Oh, honey, you know how your brother is. He just struggles sometimes. Can't you help him out just this once?" My dad was quieter, but I could tell he agreed with her. It was like they didn't even hear me when I said I was tired, that I couldn't keep doing it. Instead, it felt like I was being cast as the cold child, the one who wasn't stepping up. So now I feel even worse. It's like no matter what I do, I lose. If I keep giving him money, I'm drained and resentful. If I stop, I'm selfish and heartless. There's no version of this where I feel good about myself. I keep replaying the fight in my head, his voice sharp, angry, bitter, and wondering if I should have handled it differently. If I should have softened the blow, explained more gently, maybe offered to help in other ways. Or maybe I should have just sucked it up and sent the money. Because isn't that what family is supposed to do? But then, isn't family also supposed to not take advantage of each other? And so I sit here flipping back and forth between anger, sadness, guilt, and this weird, hollow feeling I can't shake. I don't even know which emotion is right anymore. The thing that keeps gnawing at me is how different things used to be between us. Like, if someone had told teenage me that one day my brother and I would barely talk except when money was involved, I would have laughed in their face. Growing up, he was my hero. 2 years older doesn't sound like much now, but back in middle school and high school, that age gap felt massive. He was the cool older kid, taller, funnier, better at sports. And he included me. He'd walk me home from school when I was scared of that weird neighbor. He'd let me sit on the edge of the couch while he and his friends played video games. He'd give me advice about crushes. I used to brag about him to my friends, like, "My brother is the best. He always looks out for me." I'll never forget one night in high school when I got dumped over text. I was sobbing, convinced my life was over, and he came into my room with a tub of ice cream and said, "Any guy dumb enough to lose you is gonna regret it." That was the kind of big brother he was. Protective, funny, reliable in the ways that mattered to a 15-year-old girl. So how did we end up here? Sometimes I wonder if the shift happened when money entered the picture. Like maybe our bond was always solid until adulthood forced us into these new roles. Suddenly, it wasn't about walking me home or cheering me up after a breakup. It was about bills, jobs, responsibilities. And somewhere along the line, I became the one who has it together, and he became the one who doesn't. And that imbalance poisoned things. I hate saying it like that because it sounds so cold. He's not a bad person. He's charming, he's funny, he's got this big heart. People love him. But he's also reckless. He'll spend money on drinks with friends, even when rent is due. He'll buy a new gadget because he deserves it, even though his credit card balance is sky high. And the thing is, he doesn't see it as a problem because he knows someone, usually me, will catch him when he falls. And I think that's where our family dynamic plays into it. Our parents, well, they're loving, but they're also enablers. They hate conflict. They hate saying no. Growing up, if I wanted something unreasonable, they'd tell me, maybe next time. If he wanted something unreasonable, they'd sigh, cave, and then complain about it privately. So he learned that if you push long enough, someone will give in. And when I grew up and became financially stable, guess who inherited that role? Me. The worst part is, I don't think he even realizes how much this has changed our relationship. For me, it feels like money has replaced love. Like the only time I hear from him is when there's a crisis. But for him, I think he genuinely believes this is what family does, that my willingness to step in proves I care. Which means that when I say no, in his mind, it translates to, I don't love you anymore. And that's what breaks my heart. Because the love is still there. I'd drop everything if he was in real danger. If he was sick, if he needed a place to stay long term, if something truly catastrophic happened, I'd be there in a second. But paying his rent every other month, that's not love. That's enabling. Yet I can't shake this gnawing guilt. I keep asking myself, does saying no now erase all the yeses from before? Will he ever look back on our childhood the way I do? Or will he only remember me as the sister who shut the door in his face when he needed help? I miss him. Not this version of him, but the old him. The one who made me feel safe and valued, not just financially useful. And I'm terrified that maybe that version is gone forever. I think what this really comes down to, more than the actual $800, more than this one fight, is the question of what family is supposed to mean. Because on one hand, I hear my brother's words echoing in my head, family helps family no matter what. And I know a lot of people believe that. I've read enough posts online and heard enough conversations at work to realize that some folks see unconditional support, especially financial, as the bare minimum of being a good sibling. And part of me wants to believe that. I want to believe that if my brother were drowning, I'd throw him a life raft every time, no hesitation. But then, how many times do I throw the life raft before I realize he's not even trying to swim? That's the part that eats at me. Because I've worked so hard to build the stability I have. It didn't just fall into my lap. I budgeted. I skipped vacations. I lived in crappy apartments with 3 roommates. I cried over bills and ate ramen noodles more times than I can count. And now finally I'm at a point where I don't panic every time my car makes a weird sound or my fridge decides to break. That stability isn't luck. It's the result of years of sacrifices. So when my brother frames it like, you're lucky, I'm unlucky, so it's your job to help me, it feels like an erasure of all the work I've done. Like he's rewriting the story so that I'm privileged and he's cursed, when in reality, we both had the same starting point. He just made different choices. And here's where the boundary piece comes in. I've been reading about boundaries, shout out to therapy, honestly, and something my therapist once said sticks with me. Saying no isn't unkind. It's honest. It's sustainable. It's healthy. And I keep trying to remind myself of that refusing to be his ATM doesn't mean I don't love him. It means I love him enough to stop feeding a cycle that's keeping him stuck. But boundaries are so much harder when family is involved. If this were a friend or a coworker constantly asking for money, I would have cut it off ages ago, no question. But because it's my brother, I feel this crushing weight of obligation. Like, if I don't help him, I'm betraying some sacred sibling code. And yet, if I keep helping, I'm betraying myself. Financially, it's not like I'm rolling in excess cash. I have savings, yes, but they're for emergencies. My emergencies. If my car dies tomorrow or I get laid off, I need that cushion. Every time I siphon off money to cover his bills, I'm leaving myself more vulnerable. And the messed up thing is, if something did happen to me financially, do I really believe he'd be able to support me the way I've supported him? Honestly, no. Which brings me to another ugly thought I've had. Does he even respect me, or does he just see me as a resource? Because respect would mean gratitude, maybe effort to change, maybe even just acknowledgement of how much I've done. Instead, what I get is entitlement, expectation, anger when I say no. And that doesn't feel like respect. It feels like exploitation, even if he doesn't mean it that way. So then I circle back to this core question. What does being a good sister actually mean? Does it mean opening my wallet every time he asks, even if it hurts me? Or does it mean loving him enough to set boundaries, even if he hates me for it right now? I wish the answer felt clearer, but right now it just feels like no matter what I choose, I lose. If I keep giving, I lose my savings, my peace, and honestly, my self-respect. If I stop giving, I lose my brother's trust and maybe our relationship. It's this lose-lose scenario, and I'm stuck in the middle trying to figure out which loss I can live with. The worst part of all this is how my brain just won't shut up about it. I keep looping through the whole situation like a hamster on a wheel, except the wheel is made of guilt and second-guessing. I'll be brushing my teeth and suddenly I'll hear his voice again. "You're selfish. You'll regret this someday." And my stomach drops like I just got called into the principal's office. Then I'll try to rationalize it like, no, I set a boundary. I'm allowed to say no. I'm not made of money. But before the thought is even finished, another one creeps in. What if he's right? Because maybe I am selfish. Maybe I've gotten so wrapped up in protecting my little emergency fund that I've forgotten what it means to really show up for the people I love. I picture him struggling, maybe scrambling to borrow money from someone else, maybe getting kicked out. And then I see myself sitting here smugly with my responsible budget and my little cushion of savings, and I feel like the worst human alive. And then, 5 minutes later, I flip to the opposite side. Anger, resentment, this voice in my head screaming, why is it always me? Why is it my job to bail him out every time? Why does no one ask him to change, but everyone expects me to bend until I break? I ping-pong between these two extremes, guilt and anger, love and exhaustion, responsibility and resentment. It doesn't help that my parents have low-key made me feel like I'm the problem. My mom called me again last night, not to ask how I was doing after the fight, but to sigh heavily and say, I just wish you kids could get along. Your brother's under a lot of stress right now. Which translated to, why couldn't you just give him the money and avoid the drama? My dad stayed quiet, but the silence said enough. And suddenly, I felt 12 years old again, like I was getting scolded for not sharing a toy. Except now, the toy is my hard-earned money and my sense of security. Sometimes I even imagine what it would look like if the roles were reversed. If I was the one calling him, desperate, saying I couldn't make rent. Would he bail me out? My gut says no. He might want to. I don't doubt he loves me in his own way, but he doesn't have the ability. He doesn't have savings. He doesn't have stability. He's never been able to take care of himself, let alone someone else. And that thought makes me even angrier because it feels so unfair that I'm expected to carry both of us while he gets to live however he wants, no accountability, no consequences. But then the guilt sweeps in again because he is my brother and family means something. And what if I'm too harsh?
What if someday he's gone, really gone, and the last thing between us is this fight about $800? Will I be able to live with that? Or will I look back and think, why didn't I just help him? Why didn't I just swallow my pride and send the money? I honestly don't know which thought scares me more. The idea of enabling him forever, or the idea of losing him for good. And so here I am, wide awake at night, chewing on both possibilities like they're poison. So that's where I'm at right now, sitting here, typing this out to a bunch of strangers on the internet because I honestly don't know who else to talk to. I feel like everyone in my real life has already picked a side, and the side is, just help him, that's what sisters do.
But deep down, something in me is screaming that this isn't right anymore. That I can't keep sacrificing my own stability just so he doesn't have to face the consequences of his choices. And yet, even as I type those words, my stomach twists because it feels so cold, like I'm putting a price tag on my love for my brother. I don't want to lose him. I don't want our relationship to shrivel down into nothing more than bitter phone calls and old memories of when things used to be good. But I also don't want to keep being his ATM, his safety net, his get-out-of-jail-free card. Because the truth is, it's not just the money. It's the way it makes me feel. Used, small, unappreciated, like I only matter as long as I can send him cash. And that hurts more than losing the money ever could. So here's my question to you all. Am I overreacting? Am I being selfish and cold-hearted by finally saying no? Or am I just setting a boundary that I should have set years ago? I feel terrible. Part of me thinks I'm acting like a spoiled child clutching her piggy bank, unwilling to share. But another part of me thinks I'm finally standing up for myself after years of being walked on. I don't know. Can't tell anymore. Am I overreacting?